Welcome to everybody. My name is Wanjiru Muredi, and I'm the Kenya representative for Wines of South Africa. We kicked off the East Africa virtual tasting last month in July, and we focused on Chenin Blanc. This is the second edition focusing on Cabernet Sauvignon, and we have Cap Classic coming on 1st of September, and then we have Pinotage in October. So it's really a series of virtual tastings. Travel is very difficult for a lot of people right now. We've experienced different kinds of lockdowns in the different countries. I know when we had the first session, Uganda was under a very strict lockdown. So we are glad that's opening up now. So if we can't travel to the places where we want to travel, what is the other way we can get involved? It is going through a virtual tasting. I have been in the business for about 7 years now. We are the representative of Wines of South Africa, and we are also the educator for Wines and Spirits Education Trust courses. A lot of the people in the room are some of my students or maybe prospective students. And of course, we work with the importers from different companies here. This is not just for Kenya. This is also involving Uganda and Tanzania. So the whole East African region, which I think is a very important region in terms of wine consumption. There's lots of growth expected over the years. So we've gathered a group of producers, trade, and different importers to take us through their brands of tasting in this particular session where we're focusing on Cabernet Sauvignon. I guess in terms of our program, I will start slightly differently as we wait for Matume Mbata from Wines of South Africa to join us. But we do have Deirdre Taylor here from the Stellenbosch Collective. But let me share the program again for those who are not able to see it the first time. But are you happy to be here? Please interact in the chat, have your video on if it's possible, and use the reaction, either the clapping emoji and the like. Put in your questions as well there in chat if you can, but I think we're geared for a really, really great afternoon here with all of you. I will share the program again. For your reference, but here it is. So we have the roll call. I've done the introduction. So we will go straight to Miss Deirdre Taylor before we get Matume, and then we have the different spotlights on the different importers and producers presenting today. And there will be a quiz at the end of the session for you to participate in and perhaps win some wines as well. Deirdre, are you ready to set us off? Please unmute yourself and let me know when you need your video or your PowerPoint. And I'm here to set us off to this and let us know what the Stellenbosch Cabernet Collective is about.
Thanks very much, guys, and welcome, and hello to everybody that I know, and hello, and I'm Deirdre for those that I haven't met before. I just want to ask if we can start with the video first, and then we'll just follow on with a short presentation.
I'll set that up for you in a minute.
Okay, great. Okay. Right, so while we're waiting for that, just a short introduction and who and what the Stellenbosch Cab Collective is going to be shown to you on a video format. It's just a minute. For the producers in the room, you will see a lot of images you're very, very familiar with, but I think it's the greatest opportunity or way to show what makes Stellenbosch special is by sharing some of these beautiful images of the vineyards that we work with. you. If you could go to just starting the presentation then, please.
In a minute, sorry about that.
Okay.
Here we go.
Right, so I know we've got a whole host of regions being represented, all who produce Cabernet from South Africa. And I think just a few points to highlight. If you speak about, you know, one of the world's most awarded and applauded grape varieties, Cabernet Sauvignon has to be mentioned. Often referred to as King Cab, some of the most famous wine producing regions around the world focus their production around Cabernet and blends thereof. And if you look at the climatic conditions and you know the successes that we've had in South Africa, some of our most awarded and applauded wines are Cabernets or Cabernet-based blends. Now, although Cabernet is the third most planted grape variety in South Africa as a whole, the majority of South Africa's Stellenbosch of Cabernet plantings are in Stellenbosch. So Stellenbosch is really the largest area for Cab in our country. And if you have a look at the images in front of you as we play, and you can just click through them, please, as we go, you will see that we have the most dramatic landscape, some really old vineyards, but also some fantastic slopes and elevation and aspect that helps us to produce Cabernets that are world-class and also very complex and showing a real diversity of what the grape variety can do planted in regions that are most suited to it. So Stellenbosch is one of the largest, or is the largest wine producing region in South Africa. Looking at our climate, for those of you who haven't seen Stellenbosch from the air, it really is quite dramatic. You can see we've got a range of mountain ranges. Talking in the farther distance, you can see the Simmonsberg, you can see the Helderberg up closer to the forefront of the screen. And in the middle, you've got Stellenboschberg and then the areas of Jonkershoek. And climatically very different from one another. Helderberg much closer to the ocean, slightly cooler ripening conditions than we have where I am in the Simmonsberg. But in the Simmonsberg, we also have the most amazing sort of bank of mist that comes down on the slopes of the mountain on the Stellenbosch side during the summer months. So really positive cooling influences. And we had an academic article published recently by Master of Wine, Kathy van Sale. And one of her key definitions or defining statements about Stellenbosch and its ability to produce Cabernet is something that she called cool sunshine. And I think that's vitally important. For a late ripening grape variety, and obviously a grape variety that needs a fair amount of warmth to ripen properly, the mention of cool sunshine is important because we don't want to have a variety that's so exposed to incredible amounts of heat and sun and risk sunburn and risk the vines actually shutting down because it being too warm and having a Dimitri's level of temperature at 42 degrees Celsius. It's not ideal ripening conditions. So the cooler slopes and areas of the valley and of the area that are exposed to cooling elements really produce some of the best Cabernets in our valley. And this is an interesting short sort of map that we're showing here, just on the different soil profiles. And the majority of the soils that we have in Stellenbosch is decomposed granite. I know it's quite small, but it's the decomposed granite that is partly responsible for our ability to produce top-end Cabernets. Granite soil, very minerally rich. We have lots of impregnations of iron oxide, so once again, really rich iron-based soils. And then also in different layers of clay, sort of positioned in layers with the granite. And you can have a look here. These are some of the older soils. And what you're seeing here is, once again, the redder the soils are, the more nutrient rich they are. But the clay is very important for water retention. You would have remembered from just a few years ago how badly affected South Africa was by drought and definitely in our parts of the world as well. So just some mention about why Cabernet does so well in our area. And Stellenbosch formed the Cabernet Collective. We started out in 2018, really just to focus the attention on the international markets about how well this grape variety does in South Africa and how well it does in Stellenbosch in particular. And if you compare us in a loose way to the successes that Napa has had with Cab and Bordeaux, of course, we feel that we're producing wines of a very, very high quality, but also wines that are somewhat underrated and underexplored, if I can call it that. So there's a huge amount of opportunity still for Stellenbosch and for Cabernet. And if I look at the recent export figures, Cabernet Sauvignon from South Africa is the 4th largest exported grape variety from our country, both in value and in volume. But we'd very much like for that to increase, and not only to increase on the volume side, but definitely to increase on the value side. I believe we're underperforming on our pricing for cabs, and I'm sure some of the producers will mention this as well. But you are guaranteed of a great buy if you buy a good bottle of Stellenbosch Cabernet. And thank you to all those who voted. Thank you that Kanonkop could be one of the names mentioned. So when I'm not wearing my Stellenbosch Cab hat, I also look after sales and marketing for Kanonkop, and it's very glad to be able to present to you today. And unfortunately, no wines on the presentation, but you've got some great others to share with you as well. I think we can just click through the next slide, past the soil. And if you ever thought Stellenbosch was a small area, if you haven't had a chance to visit us, all of those small names in black, that each one is a different producer. We're a very big area, and we produce quite a lot of wine, and a great place to be able to visit. So when you are able to get on a plane again, when you're able to visit us, please join us in South Africa. Please come to Stellenbosch, come and visit us, visit our wineries, and definitely come and explore some of our Cabernet. These are some of the producers. We have 28 producers in total that have joined the collective, and some of the names of the early take-up of the collective. And then just a last sort of dramatic parting shot, if you can have a look at some of the most beautiful vineyard images, I think that we have to share with you. Thank you. I don't know if there's any questions.
Thank you very much, Deidre. That gives us a really cool overview of what to expect from Stellenbosch Cab. Sorry, I actually forgot to mention your Kanonkop credentials, but more so that you have been to East Africa yourself in person. I know I met you in 2015 when we did begin the discussions with Wines of South Africa. I'm sure you know the market and that. I did try to get something that I won't open today, but then I want you to talk about this. It's not quite Cabernet Sauvignon 100%, but it's the Paul Sauer 2016. I couldn't get the 2015, but perhaps you can tell us a bit more about your award-winning wines. And if you do have a question, please post them on and I'll be able to read them out for you, Deidre. But maybe you can talk about some of your awards specifically.
Thank you very much. So yes, I've visited Kenya twice, and I've hosted a couple of tastings. I know even Dimitri joined us to sit in on one. So it's a place that I'd love to get to visit again. We're all hopeful. I didn't think I'd ever say that I miss sitting on a plane, but I'm happy to take the backseat next to the toilet now if I could just go somewhere. So I've been working with Kanonkop for quite a number of years, and Kanonkop produces 100% Cabernet Sauvignon, which unfortunately is not currently imported into Kenya, but the Paul Sauer is. The Paul Sauer is our flagship Bordeaux blend, or Bordeaux style blend. It's always produced with 70% Cabernet and then blended with Merlot and Cabernet Franc, and spends 2 years in 100% new French oak barrels and another 2 years in the bottle before release. And as Wanjiro said, that the 2015 was the first 100-point rated wine in South Africa. So it's a, what's the saying? It's as scarce as hundertana. It's rare as chicken teeth. If you can find the bottle, hang on to it and enjoy it. The 2016 was the follow-up vintage. tough vintage, I think, to follow up on 2015. And if you happen to be lucky enough to have a selection of back vintages in your cellar, drink the 16 first, then the 14, then the 15, then the 17. I think you'll have some really great drinking pleasure. But I don't want to take too much time away from some of the amazing producers that have wines with them today. I'd like to say thank you for the opportunity. Thank you that we get together and celebrate Cabernet, and have a look out for the amazing wines and watch the space. I think we're going to see a great development on Cabernet in South Africa, a continued improvement in terms of quality and dedication to producing world-class wines. And then also, of course, the additional focus on amazing cabs coming from the Stellenbosch area. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Deidre. Thank you. There you have it. The images alone were not making your mouth water and want to get on a plane and go straight to South Africa. I don't know what else can. Maybe just the liquid itself, isn't it? Thank you so much for that. And the videos are available to share later, and some of them are already shared on our social media at WineGiro and at WoSA. Thank you very much. If you want to find me wherever I am just now, we may be tempted to open that bottle together. I see Matume is here, so I want to give him a chance to say hello before we start on the other spotlight with the other producers. Over to you, Matume.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and a great honor to have you join us this afternoon. As always, this being our second edition of the tastings of South African wine, I think more than anything, I'm very thrilled to have the number increasing every time we host this event. Thanks, Deirdre, for presenting the Cab Sauvignon Cabernet, presentation. I think for us, it's the presentation of a collective collaboration, and I'm very grateful to all the producers that are on board. The idea here is to keep our consumers up to date through importers and our partners, as well as the trade partners that we have with WineGiro, coordinating media activities. The idea here is to ensure that we are kept present in the minds of the consumers. And today's edition brings nothing but joy to what will be an exploration of different wine styles. And I bet you and guarantee you the producers that are on board, including the importers, will be able to present good wines. Thanks to South African High Commission in Kenya also for joining us always and supportive of us participating in these kind of activities. I won't be taking too much of your time. There's a lot of wines to be tasted. A lot of producers have got so much to say. I think I'll leave that platform back to you, WineGiro, to start with the program as such. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Matume. Thank you very much, everybody. And now, without any further ado, we'll start with the presentations, right? To begin us off is Andre van Rensburg from Viergelegen. You will forgive my Afrikaans and correct me. I should have stayed in South Africa longer. I left 10 years ago after staying for 10 years, and I should have focused more on that. But at least I try. And the video is just downloading, but I'll ask you to perhaps just introduce yourself as I set up for your video to come to us. But just a personal story about Viergelegen. I was last there, I think, in 2019, November. And what's really, really great for us is we do have some bottles of the V, which is a blend. It's not quite, but then Andre always signs it up for us, especially for the top students of the Wines and Spirits Education Trust. So when I went, I insisted that I had a bottle with a gold pen with his signature on. But guess what? It is still in Cape Town. I didn't get to travel with it. But I'm really happy that you're here with us, Andre, today. I hope to travel to the estate again, and more so to my friend's house where the wine is being held in custody. And we'll take us from there. So welcome, Andre, and you may begin. I'll queue up the video for you shortly.
Okay, good afternoon, and it's great to be chatting to you. I love East Africa, more from a safari side than anything else. It's beautiful, and the people are fantastic, and it's so safe to go there. And I would encourage every South African and everyone from all over the world that might be tuned in to visit Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda and Uganda at least once in their life. It's absolutely stunning places. Okay, vergelegen, and you've pronounced it perfectly, and so my surname and my name too. I'm more than happy. Vergelegen means situated far away, and it's situated on the coast, about 6.5 kilometers from the sea. So we're one of the cooler Stellenbosch producers, and I have to emphasize that again. I'm very proud of our Stellenbosch Association. We are a Stellenbosch producer, not Somerset West or anything else. There's only one famous region starting with an S, and that's Stellenbosch. That is, and I have to repeat it, it is by far South Africa's best wine producing region. It's the most famous one, and it will remain like that for the future. And all the Stellenbosch producers will make sure that it happens and stay like that. On vergelegen, the biggest planted variety is Cabernet. Probably around 45 to 50 hectares out of 100 is planted to Cabernet. Most of the vineyards are now between 15 and 20 years old. And I have to add, all of them are 100% virus-free, which no wine producer anywhere in the world can claim. It's an absolutely unique achievement, and it will enable us in future to produce Cabernets from very old vineyards. Anything from 40 plus years will be feasible, and that will be really an unheard of achievement. Bordeaux may say this and that vineyard is 60 or 80 years old, but they interplant with young vineyards. So if you look at the average age, the vineyards are very seldom above 15 years. There's 1 or 2 or 3 old vines, and the rest are interplanted young vines. This is not the case. The vineyard is average 15, 20, and the older vineyards 20 years old and virus-free. Today we're tasting the 2014 and Cabernet, and then we chose that wine because this is what we're selling in Kenya now. Kenya is East Africa is the most important wine distribution area for us. We're doing quite well. And this was my first vintage working with the famous oenologist consultant, Michel Roland. We changed a couple of things, but not a lot. The wine is handpicked, and because we're close to the ocean, our ripening is fairly late. It's from middle March to end of April is harvest time for Cabernet. And the soils are all decomposed granite. And Stellenbosch, or the Cape in general, has got the oldest agricultural soils in the world. On average about 600 million years old. So very old, older than anything coming from Bordeaux or Napa or Italy or anywhere else. You must always remember Africa is the cradle of mankind. So if this is where life and everything originated, it's quite easy to understand the oldest soils in the world. We pick by hand. In small lug boxes, and then it's refrigerated overnight, so cool down to about 8 to 10 degrees Celsius. We do a cold soak, which means we keep it under 10 degrees for at least a week to 10 days. And during that time, we cover it with inert gas or dry ice to protect it against premature aging. After a week or 10 days, depending on the vintage, we allow the temperatures to slowly creep up in a natural or feral fermentation, because I have to point it out, all inoculated fermentations are natural. Even if it comes from a packet of yeast, they were obtained from the wild or in the wild and then commercially made available. So if you want to talk about a natural where you don't inoculate with yeast, that should be called a feral fermentation, a wild fermentation, with all the negatives associated with it. So we do an inoculated fermentation, and we ferment at a consistent 25 degrees Celsius for about 7 days. Towards the end of fermentation, we allow the temperature to exceed 28 to 30 degrees Celsius for the last bit. And then we macerate the skin, the young wine on the skins for a further 7 weeks. This wine was aged for 16 months in about 40% new French oak. And it was released about 2 years ago, and it sold out. So Kenya is probably, or East Africa, the last source of this wine. It's 86% Cabernet and 10% Merlot with some 4% Cabernet Franc. And it's delicious to drink now, but will improve with further maturation, or I should actually say will reward further maturation for at least the next 15 plus years. Serve it mostly with meat dishes, whether game or beef or lamb, it's up to you, or just drink it and have it with some nuts and good friends and olives and whatever turns you on. We're not prescriptive, as long as you drink it, and serve it in really nice glasses. You know, life is short. Enjoy the nice things. Good looking women or men, depending on your preference. I prefer the good looking woman. So, and nice glasses, and, you know, make life nice. It's hard and tough enough. We've had 2 terrible years with COVID. Please, my last bit that I want to encourage everyone, if it's possible and available to you, please take the vaccine so that we can restore normality to our lives, so that we can curb this nonsense, that we can have a normal life and not lose more friends and family and associates. It's of utmost importance. And I also have an agenda there. I want you to be to receive a vaccine, because I don't want to lose customers and friends and people enjoying Vergelegen wine. Enjoy it and enjoy the video. And if you're ever in South Africa and you don't visit us, I will make sure that you pay a full price in future. Have a lovely day, and it's wonderful to be with you.
Thank you very much, Andre. I'll just play the video, but please post your questions in the chat. I'll be coming back to them, and I'll also ask Shauke to be on standby to say something after this.
Oh, and tell Shauke we still love him.
Please allow me to stop the video there. I'm getting very nostalgic, but you get the general idea, don't you? I'd like to tell Andre that as we are teaching more people how to pronounce Viergelegen in Kenya, they call it Vigelegele, which in essence is like a celebration. Vigelegele, like when you welcome a bride, you welcome them with Shangwe na Vigelegele.
If I may say, I'm totally happy with that. It makes me very happy because Vergelegen is a celebration.
Yeah.
Awesome. Shauke, would you like to say something? It was really great to hear that Kenya is the only country with the remaining bottles of this for sale. So I think everybody is going to make you their best friend now, isn't it? Welcome, Shauke, the importer from DeFries Consulting. Did you have anything to add to Andre's presentation?
Thank you very much, Andre. It's great to see you again. It's been too long, actually, especially face-to-face, because our mutual tasting sessions are always the best. I also still love you too, so great to have this love now also virtually expressed. Now Vergelegen is started as a personal passion of mine, right? I knew it, that's why I brought it to the country, to basically improve my personal experience of Kenya. And now it became something that, basically is now over all of East Africa. No, it's great to hear that we are the only ones still having 2014 wine of the Cabernet Sauvignon Reserve. We still have small stocks left, so we also will switch vintage actually the end of next month. So if you still want to have it, now's the opportunity to buy. But for the rest, the best thing with all wines is just to enjoy them. So I poured myself a good glass early in the afternoon. I think we should all do the same, right? So cheers. Thank you for inviting us, Bonjour.
Thank you very much, Shauke. How much is it available for retail in Kenya? Could you just tell us that?
Retail.
And where we can get it from? Yes, the Wine Box Kenya?
Yeah, the Wine Box Kenya, all the better wine and spirits shops in Kenya for sure have it. Green Spoon will have it. Retail, that's always a bit complicated for me because of course it differs. Let me see how much it would be more or less. Cabernet Sauvignon, 160 times 1.25 because of the most. It would cost you around 3,900 shillings approximately.
Okay, so just under $40, you can get it, and you hear it can last up to 15 years. So even if you give birth today, you can still have this for your daughter's or son's 15th birthday.
Yeah.
Are there any questions? I have one for Andre. I know it's kind of like a chemistry lesson with words like inoculation and maceration. If you want to learn more about that terminology, sign up with me for my WSET class. But just to indicate that in South Africa, for the wine to be labeled per varietal, it has to have at least 85%. And Andre, there are two other things you have put in this particular vintage, other grape varieties. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about that, and then we will move on to the next presenter from Zig, in fact. The fact that it's not 100% Cabernet, it has some other magic in it.
Yes. It has the two other Bordeaux varieties. That's important for us in Vergelegen. Merlot, 10%, and 4% Cabernet Franc. But some vintages, the Cabernet is a straight 100%. It all depends on vintages and the consistency of style that we want and need to achieve. And I hope you can see the wine on your screens. There's something that I have to point out. It has got a gold CVC necktie on it. The CVC is almost as good, I think, as a Stellenbosch collective, because nothing can be as good as Stellenbosch. But the CVC enables other estate producers to join. You must just be the owner of the land, produce wines from your vineyards, and I'll need to talk to Canon Cop in any case about the Stellenbosch collective, because I'm an extremely proud Stellenbosch producer.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that. So there you have it. Remember, there's a quiz at the end. So write these notes about these things, because I'm going to be asking you about them. Thank you very much, Siegelegen, or Vigelegele, as we call it here. Next, I want to hand over to Hagen. I hope I pronounced your name correctly as well. Hagen is from Zevenvacht. Yeah, today we'll learn a lot of Afrikaans. And in Kenya, they're presented by Kaiser. But then over to you, he's the winemaker, and he's a winemaker at that wine estate. And he's also here to tell us about one of their most popular best-selling brands in Nairobi. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Wanjiru. Yeah, it's a real pleasure to be here today. It's also for me quite interesting, obviously listening to Andre. I did my internship there, or studied under him, working as assistant winemaker back in 2010. So hopefully I took good notice of what he was doing, and hopefully yeah, we can grow our wines to reach that level of status one day. Yeah, but it's a real pleasure to be here. We actually just kind of starting to grow our footprint into Africa. So I can just thank Graham and Natasha from Kaiser for that, who currently have represented us in Kenya. So it's good to be part of today's CAB Stellenbosch focus. I'll just give you a bit of background from our side. So I think two difficult names, Vergelegen. We are Zevenvacht, so not much easier. And we are a family-owned estate, and we're situated on the western side of Stellenbosch, so basically out towards Cape Town side. And we have two properties. We've got the Zevenvacht farm, which actually falls under the Polka ward of Stellenbosch, and then we have a second property over Helshoogte, which falls under the Bannock ward, which is the Bannock Valley. Today I'm going to be focusing on our estate Cabernet, which is the core range for Zevenvacht. Ironically, this wine we are progressing to certify, or we are certified as an estate as well, which, as Andre mentioned, we basically use our own grapes, or 100% our own grapes for our wines. The only reason that 2017 isn't currently an estate is because we use some of the grapes from the other property as well in the blend, although they are both Stellenbosch origin. Yeah, so owned by the Johnson family. We've got around 110 hectares under vines. So we do around 700 tons a year. And we basically grow, vinify, bottle everything on the farm ourselves as well. So our focus is very much in hands-on controlling every aspect of the winemaking process. And then into today's wine, we always usually have a small percentage of Petit Verdot or Malbec, which we also backblend into the Cabernet. Although the 2017 is basically, I think it's I must just double check, it is 91% Cabernet, and then just 7% Malbec and 2% Petit Verdot. So it's also about bringing consistency to the wine, just adding a slight extra dimension. Our soils generally also decomposed granite. Our soils are a little bit lighter here on the Polka Dry. We've got some clay in the subsoil, but it's quite a light quartz fraction of decomposed granite. So our wines tend to be a little bit more elegant. We don't go for a big, heavily structured style Cabernet. We focus a little bit more on the fruit, specifically in our estate range as well, where we want the focus to be on the terroir, on the fruit. So we age for around 18 months in French oak barrels, around 30% new oak. Also, not too much oak on the wine, just to be subtle and to let that fruit shine through. And yeah, so we get for us typically a little bit more of a brambleberry kind of notes coming through, a bit of cassis. Also, obviously from the oak, we get quite a bit of cigar box graphite notes coming through. So a bit of a lighter, more accessible style Cabernet for our estate Cabernet. And then we also have on top of that, our flagship is our Z collection, which is also cab dominant, 85% cab. And then also we back blend with the other 4 cab varietals. So our Z collection is a 5-way Bordeaux blend, although it could be, it is cab dominant, so it still meets the criteria to be a single Cabernet varietal. Yeah.
Oh, thank you very much, Hagen. So 2 winemakers, what a treat. And you've had the language, I hope it's getting easier. You've had about the soil components, you've had about the blending components. And if you do have any questions, please, this is your opportunity. You don't get as close as this. I just want to give Natasha or Graham an opportunity to say hello and tell us of the Kenyan prices of the particular wine. Graham?
Hi, Wanjiro. Thanks, Hagen. Good to see you, and thanks for that enlightenment on the Cabernet. We have the 2017 in stock, and we've probably sold 3 times as much of that as we have of anything else, which is fantastic. It's for sale, retails at 2,400, and it's a lovely, lovely wine. Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So this notion that Kenyans don't drink dry wine or don't drink, complex wines like Cabernet Sauvignon is really out of the window if they're selling 3 times as much of this as all the other brands. So again, because this is difficult for Kenyans to pronounce Zivenbach, I think we call it 7 watches. I think sometimes they go around that, but I can assure you very soon we'll be Afrikaans experts speaking fluently as a beef, and we'll be able to mention this correctly. This is really great. I must confess, I got my sample like more than a week ago, so it's really now an empty bottle. I have been enjoying and pacing myself in preparation for the tastings for today. So thank you very much for that. And Hagen, and for even the description of the different barrels and the like. So you hear 150 hectares under vine. I know East Africans love land, and some people are actually making calculations in their heads about how much it would cost to own a vineyard or a farm like that, and Fairhaven as well. Large pieces of land. I wish I owned a farm that big, but maybe one day. Thank you very much. So after hearing from the 2 winemakers, and of course, getting the very technical language, we'll move a bit to the business side. And I'm very proud to introduce our next presenter, who's an importer with casks and barrels. Helen Washer was the Sommelier Cup second runner-up in 2016? And she's also a WSET graduate, so I'm very proud of our students doing work in the business and people really realizing that it's important to have the qualifications even as you get into the business. I'm the first to confess that I'm from the slopes of Mount Kenya, and I was more familiar with tea and coffee than anything until a few years ago. And I keep saying, if Wanjiro can learn about wine, anybody can. Yeah, anybody can. So if this terminology is a bit scary, don't you worry. You can get to where we are. And I started really late. I started when I was over, 35. So clearly you can do it and it is possible. So I'll ask Helen to say something about Excelsior wines and of course about casks and barrels. Over to you.
Thank you, Wanjiro. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm happy to be here. The company is Casks and Barrels. We import wines from, of course, South Africa and other countries. And from South Africa, we are dealing with Excelsior estate for the Cabernet Sauvignon. Excelsior is located in Robertson Wine Valley, Ashton area. They were established in 1859 and it's run by the DeWitt family. They export to over 20 countries in the world, and they have planted about 220 hectares with Cabernet Sauvignon having 43%. They also have other varietals like Sauvignon Blanc, Shiraz, Merlot, Chardonnay, Viognier, and Petit Verdot. The soil that we have in Ashton is a limestone soil, which is very good for the Cabernet. And the flavors that we experience for this Cabernet is blackcurrant, dried herbs, and it has a smooth and soft taste. They normally age it for 9 months in American or French oak. And the percentage of the Cabernet is 93% and 7% Petit Verdot. You can have it with a sirloin steak. In Kenya, we retail it for $14.99, and it is available online at oaksandcokes.com. It is our fastest selling wine from South Africa. I think that's pretty much about the Cabernet, and here's a look at I hope you can see it, the bottle. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you very much, Helen. So Excelsior is from the Robertson Valley, right?
Yes.
And I see a horse, and Excelsior, even as a name, just takes me back to the medieval times. I'm thinking, what's that show? Those shows that are all like people in armor and things like that.
Actually,
does that help you sell it more? Yeah.
Yes, it does. They used to trade in horses before they went into the wine business. And most of their wines have a story behind a horse, most of them, like purebred, and yeah.
Awesome, that's great. And I see the people in Uganda also have it at their store, and we'll be hearing from Karaoke in a bit as well. So the calculations for those who are not Kenyan, when we say sort of 1,499 is like just under $15. The 2,500, I think, for the Ziven pack, that's just under $25. So you kind of round it off to about 100. I'm curious to know how the prices are sort of in Uganda and Tanzania, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Thank you very much, Washera. Please remember to paste your questions. If you don't, I'm going to ask you, right? So it's easier if you ask me the questions than me asking you as well. Thank you very much for that. Wine businesses in Kenya, actually, I think over 80% of the import companies are managed by women, and some are actually fully owned by women. So women are really making a big mark in this market, and we look forward to having more over. Next is a Kenyan who we exported to South Africa. And it's really interesting how I met Spencer. Some of you may know of the very famous place in Cape Town called the Biscuit Meal. And in fact, it was my birthday in one of the Februaries, and I wanted to treat myself at the Test Kitchen, which is one of the top South African restaurants. And I didn't know you had to make bookings like 6 months in advance. So of course I showed up on this weekday, and I thought I could just walk into this restaurant, and I could not. You know, as forceful as I am, and I always pride myself in being able to negotiate anybody under the sun, I did not get through. So in my despondency, I turned around to the other side, and there was a restaurant called Burrata. I sit down, and of course I order my meal and sort of have a conversation. And Spencer happens to be Kenyan, and I'm Kenyan, and I'm there as well. And he was managing that restaurant, I think, as the chef at the time. But he has a big history with wine industry, and today he'll be representing a company that's importing into Kenya and into the whole region, which is called Wineyard. I keep thinking I'm mispronouncing vineyard when I say Wineyard. Yeah, so Spencer is an East African export into South Africa. He'll speak about Warwick Wine Estate, and also maybe for those who are interested in the in professional sommelier qualifications, he is the president of the South African Sommelier Association, which goes by the name SASA. which kind of in Swahili means now, right? And we have very interesting conversations all the time about the validity of the name sommelier, but we won't get into that today. Today we'll be talking about the First Lady and Warwick. Over to you, Spencer.
Super. Thank you, Wanjiru. Thanks for that incredible introduction. It's really cool to be here. Thank you guys very much, and thank you for the platform. As Wanjiru said, I was born and raised in Kenya and lived there 25 years. Lived in South Africa now for 10 years. And wine is an incredible passion of mine, and it's something I sort of stumbled into when I first moved down here, and really got into, and it's amazing, just the privilege I've had and just being fortunate to have had access to it. But the length and breadth of how much you can learn and what you can do has been incredible. So I'm really proud and really pleased to have gotten to where we have. And one of the major things I always wanted to do was to re-give that passion back. I think, growing up in Kenya, when we grew up, there wasn't as much wine as there is now. So there was certainly slimmer pickings, and it was quite disappointing because I think culturally, as Kenyans, the cuisine we eat, our lifestyle leads very well towards a wine-oriented lifestyle. So I think it's incredible that there's so many cool producers. It's so incredible to be on this call with so many other familiar faces and to see how well the brands are growing. So it's with great pleasure I was able to start a company now, and with a focus on bringing wine back to East Africa and giving people, even if maybe they don't have the opportunity to come all the way down here to do, but to experience and enjoy wine in the same way we do. So I represent my company, Vineyard East Africa. We are based in Rwanda, and we're going to be based in Nairobi. We're going to be launching in Nairobi in October this year. And I'm going to focus on just one of the brands, which is a brand that's quite special to me. It is Warwick Wine Estate, where I worked personally for 3 years as a brand manager. It's a wine I know very, very well. And thanks, Wanjiru, for finding a bottle to share with everyone. They're not, as I said, not quite available in Nairobi just yet, but I'm really looking forward to doing it. I want to see if I can share a presentation with you guys with the wines. I think you've got to enable me to do that, Wanjiru. But until then, I'll just quickly talk over that.
You have co-host writing host. So you can share screen right away.
I don't, unfortunately. I don't. It says you've disabled participant screen sharing, but that's cool, no problem. I'll just talk it through with everyone else, no worries. So Warwick is a very proud Stellenbosch producer. I know we've got quite a bit of Stellenbosch in the room today, and that's awesome because Stellenbosch really is cab country. It's a focus. It's something that I think South Africa and Stellenbosch should be really proud of. There are not many places in the world. I think Andre alluded to it, and Deirdre certainly to a great extent, that there are few places in the world that are known for their Cabernet production exclusively. So like Napa in California and Bordeaux in France, and then comes Stellenbosch. And of late, I think, especially with the great reputation that the likes of Canoncop have created for it, that a lot of people are beginning to recognize Stellenbosch as an incredible producer of some of the best Cabernet in the world. And it's really cool if you haven't had the opportunity to really understand it. And a picture really doesn't do it justice. If you ever got to experience the length and breadth of Stellenbosch and how vast and diverse it is, it's quite something. It's one thing to say they're different soils and they're different landscapes and they're different wards and they're different mountains, but to drive through it and experience it it's quite incredible. I'm actually sitting here bang in the a little bit just out of in Franschhoek right now, but it is breathtaking and it really is stunning. So Warwick is based in Kapmutz, which is the more southwesterly side of Stellenbosch, and that's debatably, but maybe slightly controversially, is original cab country. Historically unproven, but a lot of people think that in the original what was called the Stellenbosch Dry Red, which was thought to be a combination of predominantly Cabernet and sometimes Cinsault and other varietals, that the Cabernet came from generally that region, and some of the oldest plantings of Cabernet are found in that Kapmutz region. So Warwick is quite proudly in there, and the vineyards grow right against the mountain, or right against the Simonsberg mountain, which is quite something. Incredibly outstanding. And you get interesting I've heard putting is that you get a really masculine style Cabernet with your club notes producers or your club notes oriented Stellenbosch. So lots of power, lots of dark fruits, and lots of energy. And I think traditionally, if people think of Cabernet, that's what you're looking for. So wines that really pack a punch. The one wine that I'm going to focus on today, which is the one that you have in your picture that I absolutely can't share, if you don't mind, Manjir, the First Lady Cab. So that is the best-selling Cabernet in South Africa. It's a 1 million plus production bottle operation, and it is something that Warwick are incredibly proud of. It showcases a really good versatility of Cabernet because, as I just said, it does quite show. Cabernet is traditionally known for its power and its incredible opulence, but the First Lady Cab got a real elegance to it that makes it quite accessible, and I think that's why a lot of people love it. When I used to work at Warwick, we used to call it the blue one because not many people knew by name, and the distinct blue color was something that a lot of people understood it for. And I'm really excited to bring it to Nairobi because I think from a profile perspective, it's exactly the sort of wine that people enjoy drinking. It's got the right combination of sophistication, i.e., again, all the power, and you're looking for different layers of fruits, but a very, very nice finesse and a medium bodiedness that allows you to drink it now or keep it for a bit longer if aging is your thing. Fortunately, it does have, because of its incredible reputation, it is already in Nairobi in a few places. I believe you can get it at Sierra, and actually enjoyed a bottle there last time I was in Nairobi. But yeah, there are a few other places as well that it is going to. But as I said, really excited to bring it to the country. I think it's just going to be, really works. It's a good fit. From a pricing perspective, it's going to land in at about 2,000 Kenyan shillings. All goes well if the taxman doesn't take too much. So sitting just under about 2,000 Kenyan shillings. So quite a competitive price point. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Thank you very much. A bottle of First Lady Cabernet Sauvignon for 2,000 shillings, just under $20. Can we start queuing up and do pre-sales? Yeah, because I can tell you, currently the by glass option at Sierra restaurants is around about 1,000 shillings, which is about $10. So that's why I'm saying that. But I think what I like about, I'm a fan of wine names, and sometimes even when I post on Instagram or, it's wine names we love. So the First Lady is so great for Mother's Day, for birthdays, for, everything related to ladies. And how ladies like gifts. Okay, those whose love language is gifts. Maybe not everybody likes gifts, right? The First Lady. And of course, in the Warwick portfolio, there's a Blue Lady. That's, of course, the higher end Cabernet Sauvignon as well of this that is not currently available. But yes, quite interesting. Did you hear 1 million plus production in South Africa, bestseller there? So remember these facts and figures for the quiz that's coming along. Thank you very much, Spencer. And we look forward to having you back here full time once you have, once your South Africa tenure has expired, that you will come and continue developing here and perhaps open a restaurant or two like you have had before in Cape Town. Thank you very much. And there you have it at Warwick. I'm curious though, could you tell us something about the wedding cup? Which is the logo on the bottles. No, yeah.
Totally would love to. I realized I didn't miss a bit of an opportunity there. It is a nice English name for everyone to relate to, Warwick. And the story of the wedding cup it's a symbolic story. Bear with me, it's a little bit of a long-winded one, but it's the story of Princess Gunegunda. It's a jewel, if I'm not mistaken. It's an Eastern European in origin, but basically it's a love story, the story of a king and a peasant and his daughter. And the peasant's daughter fell in love, the king's daughter fell in love with this peasant and he wanted to marry her, but the king deemed him not worthy to be able to marry her because he was not of royal lineage. And she loved him, so she was like, nah, man, so she goes on hunger strike, and the story goes, and the king, overcome by his love for his daughter, says, listen, I really want you to be happy, but I can't let you marry this guy because he's not not royal and he's obviously not worthy. And she said, so what if he can prove you worthy? And as it turned out, he was an ironsmith, so basically someone who worked with metals. And the king said, well, all right, if I'm gonna set him a challenge, an impossible challenge, and if he's able to fulfill the challenge, then he'll prove himself worthy and he'll be able to marry you. And his challenge was to create a cup that two people could drink from at the same time, which if you look at the logo, fortunately, sorry, I can't share my screen, which is quite unfortunate because the label does show it quite nicely. But he made the cup in the form of a woman's dress, or of a woman sort of in a nightgown, carrying a vessel on top of her head, and the vessel swivels. And so the underside of the ball gown was a cup, and the top side was a swiveling cup as well. And if you were to hold it parallel, then because it's swivel, then you would be able to drink from it at the same time. And so when he proved that he could do that, the king was very delighted, and he gave Princess Gundugunda the permission to marry the peasant the peasant ironmonger. But it's a cool little tradition. It's a story that the owners of the farm, the owners who really made prominence to the farm, the Radcliffe family, really loved when they bought the estate, and they used it as a logo that represented it. And it's a tradition, and if anyone ever is to visit Warwick, it's a tradition that they have there, that you can drink from the wedding cup. And if you have a couple of extra rand or a few more shillings, you can buy a wedding cup made of pure sterling silver. It will set you back a bit more than a bottle of Warwick First Lady Cab, but it's a cool little memorabilia thing to take home with you from your trips to South Africa.
Thank you so much. There you have it. That's
cool.
the wedding
I did warn
cup.
you it's a long story. Sorry.
Yes. Yeah, it's a long story, but then I think this is the amazing thing about wine. The product is really great, but there's all this history and stories surrounding the names and the heritage and all that. And it helps sell the bottle, right? We talked about the Gele Gele, 7 watches. Now you have a story when you're selling or when you buy this for your loved ones, right? So I love the folklore around the different names. I'm also curious to find out something about the estate or the winemaker that I can personalize to be able to share the story. Of course, the chemistry is great. And for example, I see Ian from the Wine Story is asking all these very technical questions about acidity, alcohol content, and blending. So I've seen your questions. I hope we'll be able to cover them as we go around the program. I'm not sure whether you were here at the beginning when when we talk at the beginning, but then we'll be talking about that. Indeed, Cabernet Sauvignon is a grape that can be blended. Some of the winemakers have already alluded to adding Petit Verdot, adding Malbec, adding Cab Franc or Merlot to stabilize the product. What percentage did I say of the grape varietal you have to have the name on the bottle? Can someone put the answer in chat? To be able to say Cabernet Sauvignon, what percentage must the wine have to have that name on the bottle? It's a percentage out of 100, and some people alluded to it already. Aha, Helen, Nixon, well done. You were listening. So at least 85% has to be of the varietal that is there. If it is less, for example, then they call it something else, like they would call it Paul Sauer, like we had on this bottle here. Paul Sauer Canon Cup is a blend that has less than 85% Cabernet Sauvignon. So therefore, that's something that we're learning about. Is this useful or should we switch off? Give me your feedback in the chat. Should we stop? Should we continue? Of course, we're continuing. I'm sure it's very, very valuable to all who are listening. I'm going to skip a bit now and change gears for a bit, because we want to get into Uganda, right? And I have another proud student of mine. I didn't even know he was in Uganda until we were planning this about 2 weeks ago. Karaoke was one of the students in our level 2 class. He has a lot of pizzazz. He's been a food and beverage professional in Kenya. I think when we met, he was at Ibis, which is in the Westlands region and part of the ACO group. But now he tells me he moved to Onomo. So when I had Onomo at first, I thought he was in Ethiopia, because there's the Oromo in Ethiopia. But then I didn't know there's a chain of hotels in the region. He's based in the Kampala branch, Onomo, and he's gathered himself with his friends and the sommelier at, is it Uganda? You'll tell us where you are. And I know the general manager of the same hotel in Uganda is also here with us. Quentin, yeah, I think he had, yeah, I'm not sure whether he's still with us. So we want to hear a lot more about what is it like in other countries. We've heard about a lot from the wine producers, we've heard from the importers, but as someone who has to develop a wine list and he gets bombarded with all these brands, how does he make decisions? How does he get feedback from his customers in terms of what he needs to do? And what is it like selling wine in Uganda? Over to you, Karaoke, welcome.
So, Wajiro, thank you very much. I'm really proud to be here. Wajiro, I have a very soft spot for Wajiro just because she shares the same name as my mother, and also she's my teacher as well. So I really have a very soft spot for her. So I'm the food and beverage manager for Onomo Hotels in Kampala, and the wine drinking culture here is quite very on its entry level, but wine in their own capacity as well. I've been able to actually now start creating a wine list for a hotel that we are opening. That is Onomo Hotel here in Kampala with 22 brands around Africa as well. So I'm really excited to be able to develop a wine drinking culture and also to be able to sell it as well. For me, it's been a journey to be able to learn along the way and know different perspectives about the wines that we actually have in the market and know how to sell them. And here in Uganda, I've had a very large portfolio for the South African wines. I'm actually at Uganda Wines, one of my suppliers, who have a very good range of South African wines, and we believe that they're really going to actually be quite helpful to us as well. We have my general manager on board. That's Mr. Quentin. And by chance, we actually came across the Excelsior Cabernet Sauvignon, and it's actually named after his surname called Divet family. And I was really excited about the Excelsior Cabernet Sauvignon, and I got it on my menu. And I definitely know it will be such a really big mover. I'm really glad, Washera, to have met you, and we'll definitely keep in touch on this platform and get to know each other much more. Yeah, part of my job description is basically selling this entry-level wines and making them move out of the shelves as well, and getting to teach my staff about it as well. I'm an enthusiast, and I have learned along the way. I sometimes don't really know what I should expect from different wines, but I'm very experimental. The Cabernet Sauvignon, I started drinking a very entry-level Cabernet Sauvignon in the market. That was a Frontera some time ago when I became interested in wine. And I think my journey has really progressed in making volumes and revenue in certain places that have really worked, and getting to have a very big love for it. And I know it will definitely become something that is a career, more than a career, and more than an F&B manager at some point. And I'm loving it here in Kampala. We have to create a really good wine drinking culture here in Kampala and develop it much more as well. So I'm quite excited to be here and see what the market has to offer as well. And you are almost welcome to Kampala. And yeah, welcome to Kampala. This is where we are. Yeah, so we have a couple of ranges also for wine to taste, and we'll be tasting that later on with my experiences down here. Yeah, thank you, Ajiro. We also have our chef as well, who is from Onomo, and he'd just like to say hello. He's a guy we're going to be working with to probably pair different kind of foods and a menu that we are developing in conjunction with Quentin the vet who actually owns the wine, you know? Yes. So thank you, Wajiro, and yeah, thank you very much, and you're all welcome to Kampala too.
You see why teaching is so fulfilling, you know? I feel like these are my children who I'm letting to go across the world. And we have people in cruise ships who've been through our class, we have people in hotels, and it's always such an honor, to be honest. I'm so proud of you, Karaoke. Thank you so much. You told us about Excelsior. What else do you have there? And for example, just to give us an indication of how much Excelsior would be listed for in a hotel.
Yes.
Just to sort of give a comparison, if you can.
Okay, so we have the Excelsior Cabernet Sauvignon just going about on a retail price for about $10. Doing our margins, we probably might go to about $25 to about $30. But we want really affordable wines that will be able to actually move off our shelves. I pretty encourage entry-level wines to actually go out of the shelves. We also do have a dryland collection of dryland collection Conqueror, a Cabernet Sauvignon 2017 bottle that is something I just found out here at the Uganda Wines cellar, and I'm yet to try it. I'm quite excited about it. I really don't know what it's out. We also have a Nederberg Cabernet Sauvignon that is quite very commercial around Kampala as well. Everybody just goes with Nederberg at some point just because of being very, very commercial about it. It's quite a very famous wine, but also I think it's a wine that has a very distinctive character and quite one of the long-serving wines that has been in the market for quite some time. I remember like about 15 years ago when I started the hospitality industry, Nederberg was there. I've known it for quite some time, and I've been able to sell it across the board. But I also think it's something that is it's a wine that is quite neglected at some point, and but we still sell it. It's going to be on my menu as well, and I'm going to have a Cabernet Sauvignon on the menu too. And I think it's also a fantastic wine to pair with food and stuff like that. So it's about $12 to a retail price down here at the shop. Pergabag Cellar Cabernet Sauvignon, and it's also quite very evident in this market as well. And we move a lot of it commercially here in Kampala. I have not listed it on my menu, but I know eventually I will. I wish I had space on that large platform to do a very wide menu, but I like limited menus that would not be able to just have stagnant stock on my menu. That is one of the most one of the challenges that we actually encounter when we have high premium wines. So I've really gotten very entry-level wines, medium range wines in terms of the collection that I've got, but also having to put in some Cabernet Sauvignons inside there. And as we go along, we are going to create a very big culture down here that is very evident in drinking dry wine, and like Kenya improving, and I can see that improving here as well.
Thank you very much. As many of you know, clearly, I mean, these are the decisions that we have to make along the value chain. Producing is one thing, distribution is another, but even just the retail, the end person is a very, very key thing. Wines of South Africa has invested a lot in training and development of staff. We have been training people in Kenya every year, people in the trade from 2015. I know the same has happened in Uganda as well. We've only had the Sommelier Cup in Kenya. I'm looking forward to having the Sommelier Cup competition where we have the Tanzanian event, Uganda event, Kenya event, and then like an East African champion as well. So we'll definitely be looking into that also. I see Soraya wants to talk, and I'll come to you in a bit because I know you're connected to Uganda wines, and the Drylands collection, Peterburg, is one of your products that you gave us. And I know you're at the coast. I'm very jealous of you, but please hang on there, be on standby, because I want to give Quentin DeVet a chance to speak, as well as the general manager of Onomo Hotels. Over to you, Quentin. I know you have
I'm sitting just thinking I'm here to
in your glass.
Wine. I thought I'm just here to enjoy the wine, use an excuse. Well, it's going to be noisy in a moment. We're busy doing an audition for one of our Friday liftoff sessions here on the deck. I think Karaoke said it all, but one thing we want to make, what Karaoke and I spoke about, and I think we as the trade sometimes step in the hole where we charge our bottles too high. So we rather want to shift volumes for us. Our focus is let's get people to drink 2 glasses, 3 glasses, or a bottle of wine, rather than making it so expensive that no one would want to buy your wine and it stays in your cellar for months on end. So I've worked with Matome before in Maputo at the Radisson while I was there. And Wines of South Africa, when you guys do come here to Maputo, to Kampala, the Onomo is here to welcome you all. I think we have a great space here to do something together. So we're looking forward to building and strengthening our relationship with you all.
Well,
thank you very much. Thank you very much. Karaoke, go ahead.
I think also Quentin should say what he's drinking too.
They stole my bottle, but it was a Niedlingshof Cabernet.
Niedlingshof, awesome.
Niedlingshof,
awesome.
Yes.
Niedlingshof,
Yes.
There you
Very
go.
nice.
There's quite a variety.
Exactly. Courtesy of Karaoke. You have taught him well.
Thank you very much. All roads lead to Onomo Hotel for both the WoSA events and just for your own leisure when you're in Kampala, Uganda. I will collect the commissions from the hotel and hopefully we'll be visiting soon. I hope we can do the Pinot Touch tasting from there. Yeah, I hope we can do the Pinot Touch tasting from there.
Of course.
Super. Thank you very much. Has your appetite been whetted by this individuals in terms of the opportunities coming up? It's 3:30. We're still going on along. I hope you're still great. Do please tell us what's in your glass. What's in your glass? What's in your glass? Like I promised, I'll go on to Suraya. Suraya is also a proud WSET level 3 soon to graduate. So I was telling her she actually needs to retire me from teaching WSET. Over and above that, she has competed in the Wines of South Africa sommelier competition twice. And both times she has been the first runner-up, right? I think she's waiting to go for the ASI Sommelier Cup, which is the international one. And I think, Spencer, if you're still on the call, this is your girl. I think she'll be the first one to represent Kenya in the ASI competition, and probably, and I know she's one of already the founding members of the sort of Kenya Sommelier Association that is coming along. More than that, she's an importer and she runs the wine shop in Kenya. It's a very popular spot, lots of wines. I mean, I learned a lot from her before I got into the business myself, as I used to frequent her restaurant on Gong Road. So we have the Conqueror, I think Karaoke mentioned it, the Conqueror Drylands collection. I love these names. There's Conqueror, tenacity, resilience. I love them. They can be matched to any mood. I know you're not in Uganda, but you'll be speaking for the Ugandan importer as well as yourself. And tell us where you're at, because it's nice and sunny and I think I can see the ocean.
Hi guys, how's everybody? I am at the beautiful coast in Galu, Diani, and the sun is finally out. It's taken a while, but it's definitely out. And I am actually drinking rosé. Sorry, it's X, fail. But it's hard to drink the Drylands Conqueror Cab Sauv right now. I'll drink it in the evening. But yes, no, the Cabernet brand the Drylands brand is a beautiful brand. Karaoke, it's so good to see you, and nice to see you in Uganda. Nice to see everybody. It's great to see that we're doing stuff to keep the industry alive. It's so important, and I'm so happy when I see fellow wine lovers and fellow people supporting the industry, because this is what we need to keep things going. But yeah, a little bit about Drylands. I mean, it's very much dryland viticulture. The old vines, bush vines, they're struggling. And as we all know, things struggle, they do really well, like diamonds under pressure. So this Cabernet Sauvignon is doing really, really well. I'm happy to see you're drinking a Nietlingshof as well. That's one of mine too. Quinton, that puts a smile on my face. And yeah, I think King of Grapes, King of Red Grapes, definitely Cab Sauv. And there's so many, and it's so good to see that people are sort of embracing big, bold, spicy, fruity reds. And like I said, it's a little bit hard to drink it on the beach right now, so I'm settling for a rosé. But I'm happy to see that people are drinking it, and we have it on offer as well at the wine shop for this whole week. It's on at 20%. So Wanjiro, you had the code, right? If they go to the wine shop, they get a discount.
You can put it right here on the chat, and we will also communicate through our channels.
Okay,
right.
Perfect. I'll put that in.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I must tell you, I mean, every time I'm feeling low, I look for one of these sort of big names: Conqueror, Resilience, and whoever. I look for any excuse to drink wine, and I can match it with anything. I'll look for any excuse. I want to recognize some guests who are here. I see the producer from Man Family Wines with us, Francois, welcome. I see Christine Amolo from Joss Hansen, who do Simmons Things, Clean Rust, and other brands, is here with us. Thank you. I see Gerald from the South African High Commission Trade Office, a big supporter of ours since the very beginning and facilitates a lot of the partnerships. Thank you so much. Matume had mentioned Zanele as well. You know, Department of Trade and Industry in South Africa is who funds Wines of South Africa. So she's like my boss here in Kenya, indirectly. She doesn't like me saying that, but she is a big, big supporter of our work as well. And all the enthusiasts, Joy, Irene, SFA, I see Lillian, Ayo, Nixon. Thank you so much for coming. Here is a question before we go into, I know Dimitri has been waiting, Deanne has been waiting to tell us about their wines as well. We're coming to you, so be on standby. But I want to ask, Deirdre did a presentation on the Stellenbosch Collective, and she mentioned that there needs to be, there are how many founder members or who are producers that are part of the collective? She gave us a number of members in the Stellenbosch Collective, because we had that Stellenbosch is the area where most of the Cabernet is grown in South Africa. How many members? It was also kind of there in the video. How many members? Who remember? Oh, SFA was listening. Very correct. When I actually counted them from their website, I counted 29 names, but yes, they're 28. Very correct. Well done for listening. Awesome. This one is a bit out of the box. And you may have had to have been here perhaps the last session to know this one, or maybe just from your experience. Who knows how many glasses of wine are consumed? The glasses of South African wine are consumed every day around the world. It's in the millions. It's a double-digit number. Of course, that doesn't help you much, does it, if you don't know it? But how many millions of glasses of wine are consumed every day? Yeah, okay, I'll help you. It's less than 50 million, but it's more than 1 million. So whoever gets the number closest in the next 30 seconds, I will help out. You need to type in the chat how many glasses of South African wine are enjoyed, because this is African wine, right? So we want people drinking wine from South Africa. We know the history, over 300 years of experience. Even Andre alluded to, 600 million or more. How many glasses of South African wine are consumed? Okay, nobody is quite warm yet. Nobody is quite warm yet, but I'll say it's between the list number that has been put there and the highest number. So it's somewhere in between there. Whoever gets close to 2 or 3 digits, I will then be happy. Yeah. Okay, let me say Wine Enthusiast FSA is the closest right now. Or is she? Quentin is also, okay, Quentin has put in how many? Okay, it's between 10 and 20, if that helps you.
Oh, no, then don't start with less than 50.
Joyce is getting
Can
warmer.
we go to about 15?
Joyce is getting warmer.
15.
It is 19 million glasses. 19 million glasses of South African wine.
19 million.
Today, between the 23 of us, I'm sure we're going to add another million today. We're going to add another million today. It is 19 million, 19 million. I know that was kind of off, but then I hear when you go to work in a consulting firm, these are the types of questions they ask you, and you kind of have to work your way down. Awesome. Diane Chimboza is a Kenyan import, Zimbabwean export to Kenya. And I did meet her at the beginning of my journey, actually. So some people confuse us for each other. Would you believe that? Okay, I'm lying. That's a lie. But she's my sister from another mother. And I think she's one of the best tongues in East Africa, tongues as in tasters, because we're part of a wine group together. And when the rest of us were going like, you're walking through slowly to the tasting, she's already mentioned 10 things, right? She is the MD of Under the Influence in Kenya, and they represent a number of brands. And today she'll be talking to us about Sakonde and Liverland. Right, over to you, Madame Diane Chimboza.
Thank you, Wanjiro. I'm just also gonna introduce Francois, who's on the call as well. He also represents Sakonde and Liverland. Hello, everybody. I'm in rainy Nanyuki. I don't know if you can hear the rain behind me, so I do apologize. Tried to escape the cold in Nairobi, but I found rain here in Nanyuki. And great place to actually drink Cabernet. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about the Sakonde and the Liverland wines. We do have a little bit of Sakonde that we do supply here, and then we've also been looking at bringing in some Liverland. I think our goal is always to kind of look for the best of South Africa, the best grapes, the best producers, somebody with a good story that we can sell behind the wine. And I think both of these brands, obviously Sakonde is very iconic, but also the Liverland is also a very, very amazing brand. So what we're having today is we're gonna do the Liverland, the Sakonde, the Stellenbosch Cab, and then the Liverland Cab. So Liverland, directly translated to Loveland, historic estate with a beautiful soul in the heart of Stellenbosch. Interestingly enough, the Liverland used to be a first growth estate in the 90s and 2000s, and then the farm was then sold, and then it got new owners, but they weren't very interested in the wine, so that kind of fell apart. So in 2016, the farm was bought, and so it's very much been a labor of love, resurrecting the brand, resurrecting the farm, and renovating, and just being able to create beautiful wines. So they've been able to make 3 different vintages from when they bought the farm, a Cab, a Pinotage, a Rosé, and also the Chenin. And incidentally, the Rosé has been highly rated as by Tim Atkins as one of the best rosés in South Africa. What we're then having as well is from Sakonde. I'm sure a lot of you guys know who Jose Conde is. But a self-taught cellar master, and his first attempt at making wine was in 2000. And he actually chose to experiment with his favorite grape, which was Cabernet Sauvignon. And so his father-in-law actually had some of the best Cabernet grapes in the region. So using basic equipment and very traditional methods, he made his maiden vintage. And from his maiden vintage, they only had 2,400 bottles. But against all odds, and to everybody's surprise, the wine went on to win 5 stars in the Platinum Wine Guide. And so very much Sarkande is known for making beautiful Stellenbosch cabs. What's interesting, we talked about cabs having a little bit of, the 85% is cab, and then you can add some other stuff into it just to, increase the blend. But, one of the things I asked these guys today, I'm like, why do you add all these, all these other Bordeaux grapes into your blends? And, they said it's like adding salt and pepper to your steak, right? It just makes it, and it adds, the flavor, the taste, the profile. So all of these cabs, the Leaf Blend and the Sarkande, have a little bit of something in it just to kind of give a little bit more of, so a little bit of Petit Verdot gives you that deep and dark broodiness and giving you incredible color. Malbec adds some very, very beautiful berries and an aroma. And then the Leaf Blend has actually got a bit of Cinsault, which is very, very aromatic, lush, big fruits, lots of red currant flavors, gives you more accessibility and vibrance. And I think that's the thing that we find works well, very, very well here in Kenya. You want accessibility and good price. So the Leaf Blend, we would sell this for about 1,700. And then the Sarkande, the Stellenbosch cab, is about 2,500. We actually also do have the Oud Nectar, which is sort of the flagship cab from Sarkande. And we do sell this in limited quantities for about 7,500 shillings. Francois, I don't know if you want to add anything, if you're not on mute.
No, I can just say you were perfect, Deanne. It's as if you're part of the winery. You are part of the family, but yeah, that was incredible. I was afraid I was not going to make the call, but because I had to drive between offices, but I just got to the other office. But no, thanks, Deanne. I think you added everything that you needed to. You spoke about Jose, and we being I think one of the top Cabernet producers in South Africa and Stellenbosch. We're also part of the Stellenbosch Cabernet Collective. I think you might have shown a presentation about that earlier because you mentioned I wasn't part of the conference then yet. Yes, and I think South Africa is not only known for Pinotage anymore, but we produce some excellent Cabernet Sauvignons, some fabulous Shirazes as well. So people don't have to go to Bordeaux or to Napa to find a good Cabernet Sauvignon. And I believe you've already done a Chenin earlier, right? A Chenin seminar. And I just wanted to add that Chenin Blanc has really become the signature white variety for South Africa. I think in the last 10, 15 years, the Chenin Blanc Association has done a lot of work for South Africa. And we hope, the Cabernet Association can do that as well. So, same with Pinotage, just talking about more about, the new style of Pinotages that we get from South Africa. But yeah, thanks, Deanne. If there's any other questions that you might have, you'll feel free to ask something that we might have left out.
Okay, thank you very much, Francois and Deanne. I think because Shiraz was mentioned, maybe we can come back to the blending, right? And I think there was a question earlier from Ian, specifically asking about the Cab and Shiraz blend. I know these are very typical, mostly in Australia and not necessarily in South Africa. But then I think you mentioned the Leaf Blend may have some Cab. I think there was a vintage that had been sold when I was reading up as well. Would this be a question you want to tackle?
Why?
What does Shiraz bring to a blend with Cab?
Probably a bit of that spicy pepperiness. It really depends on the type of Shiraz clone that you would be adding. But I think Cabernet is usually well known for the cassis and the blueberries, blackberries, quite a wide range of different, berries. Some, I'd say some younger, lighter Cabernet Sauvignons might have more red fruit. And then the bigger, more complex Cabernet Sauvignons, older vines might have more of that dark fruit. And Shiraz might just bring a little bit of aromatics, that pepperiness, white pepper they talk about many times in Shiraz. And then some styles of Shiraz are quite meaty or gamey, or a little bit wilder. So that combination seems just to work. So I believe a Cab Shiraz blend are quite popular, yes. Usually made in a lighter style, I think.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that. Yes, Shiraz is normally known as the spicy grape. Sometimes I use it as my alter ego because my short form name is Shiro. So some people can't say that, they remember more Shiraz. But anyway, that's too much information. But then the other thing I wanted to point out is the label of the Loveland is actually Cupid riding on a springbok. How cool is that? What is the history behind that? Like Cupid flies. I thought he flies. Why is he riding a springbok?
So that's maybe quite a nice story. It's not as a long story as the Warwick story. So in short, so Jose and his business partners has always been looking for a property for Man Family Wines, and during the years before we bought Liefland, Liefland means love land. I think Deanne might have mentioned that. He was looking at various wineries, and one of the farms that he visited was Liefland. And when they arrived at the property to have a meeting with the owners to talk about whether they are willing to sell and, you know, what's included and how much it costs, because buying a winery and vineyards in Stellenbosch aren't just, you know, it doesn't come from your back pocket. When they arrived there, it was quite strange. They found this little springbok together with 2 horses. And they were quite amazed, like, because it's a quite unusual sight. We think of a springbok or, you know, antelope being in big camps, and you don't really find a little springbok on a wine farm, and especially not with 2 horses. So the owners said that the springbok was orphaned, and they put the springbok with the horses, and they accepted this little springbok as their little child, and they've been inseparable since then. And Jose, also being a graphic designer, he's done most of our labels, both Man, Liefland, Star Conde, and all the others. He's very creative, and he thought, you know, let me think of a story and how we can combine it with the label. And Cupid being the god of love, of course, as we know, he thought, you know, let's make kind of a quirky label, a little bit serious but quirky. There's enough of that family crest, you know, Cape Dutch style gable, you know, labels out there. And this strange love, this unusual love between the horses and the springbok. He thought, you know, let me put Cupid on the springbok. and that's there was many different labels, but that's the one that worked the best. And so far, the last 2-3 years that we've launched the label, probably in about 15 different countries, it's been accepted, and there's a little story that you can talk about. So it works. And from that, we can play around with lots of different labels and stories that comes from that love land, Liefland, with the love between the springbok and the horses, and the love for soil and vineyards and making wine. So yeah, that's the story.
Thank you very much. There's a lesson to learn for people from tea or coffee growing areas ourselves about how we need to label our tea and coffee better with a story, right? Like, it's amazing the history behind that. I just wanted to show you, I have the Star Conde Oud Nectar. It's not open yet because it's cost a bomb. It's cost a bomb, but then I want to be able to maybe say something about that one today. I was waiting for a sample of this one, but then this is something I got from a client's order. And I'm just looking at it wondering why I shouldn't open it. But then I remembered the pricing and I wanted to cry. Either Diane or Francois can talk about it. Yeah.
Sure, I'll say something about it, and Deanne, of course, you can come in. You know as much as I do.
Wanjiro, your bottle's coming. I'm so sorry, it got left behind. So go ahead and open that one, and then we'll send you another one.
So the winery's name, or the farm's name, is Oude Nectar, oud meaning old, and nectar, of course, comes from flowers. So it was mixed mixed farming that has been done on the Starkonde property, or Oude Nectar property, for many years, more than 300 years. There's one of the plots there that we also grow some varieties for our white estate white wine, and it's that area is the longest continuous farmed area on the farm. So that's just the name, Oude Nectar. So as I mentioned, we've been specializing in producing Cabernet Sauvignon for many years. And the Oude Nectar comes from our highest vineyard. So it's about 620 meters above sea level, where the Cabernet site is situated, the Oude Nectar that goes into the Oude Nectar. And it's, again, of course, a blend. Depends on the year. As Deanne also mentioned, we believe, of course, if the Cabernet is good on its own, fantastic. But we believe Petit Verdot, Malbec, and Cabernet Franc adds something to the wine, whether it would be color or more tannin structure or aromatics or whatever. That's why some people add Viognier and Roussanne to the Syrah. So even though only 2 or 3%, because it adds that aromatic flavor to the wine, gives it elegance. So we decided, or Jose, that's before my time, he wanted to make an iconic, the best wine that we can possibly do. He planted Cabernet Sauvignon on that site. I think it was around 2003 or 4, and the first vintage that he made from that wine, I think it was only like 600 or 700 bottles, was 2008. And of course, as you know, the vintage in South Africa, or we make wine around January to March in our summer, and he made the wine. And unfortunately, at the end of that year, the whole vineyard burnt down because of mountain fires. As you know, we get fires regularly in the Western Cape. Some of the fires are natural for the fynbos that needs to grow and germinate. And unfortunately, that part where Starkonde is situated, the Jonkershoek Valley and the Jonkershoek Mountains, had quite a severe burn, and we lost the whole vineyard. So first iconic wine, gone, only one vintage. Jose had to take out all the vineyards, replanted it the following year, and we were able to make wine a couple of years later. So I believe you have a 2016 or 17 perhaps?
2017.
2017, okay, wow, that's the current one that we sell. Yeah, so the follow-up vintage was a 2014. So little bit by little bit by little bit, we've been able to make more of it. So the wine, I believe it was the 2016, also received quite a high score by Tim Atkin, 98, if I remember correctly. So we're quite proud of our Cabernet and of the Oude Nectar. And it's very, very limited. I think, Jan, you might have bought like 12 bottles or 24 bottles. So it's very, very strictly allocated. We sell it probably about 15 countries or so, and each country would get like 60 bottles for you or 30 bottles for you. So it's quite nice to have an iconic wine as well. We wish we could make more, but unfortunately that vineyard is quite small, and that's all that we can produce.
Thank you very much. I've learned a lot from land speculation, and I'm going to start speculating with wine. So since my bottle has been guaranteed, I'm keeping this one for a few years, and the others that have been mentioned. And I'll have like 5 years from now.
That sounds
so
good.
you better start speculating. You better start speculating with me. But what a treasure trove of information. I'm learning, and I thought like I had done my research and I knew the fact that I was going to tick off, but I'm learning too. So learning never ends at all. Thank you very much for that. Just a note, Dimitri, I know you're on standby. We are going to be coming to you in a bit, but it marvels me that 600 meters in South Africa is considered high altitude, because I actually had to call our Kenyan winemaker, Emanderito, because they're based at the equator, the Rift Valley. Who wants to guess how many meters they are at? It's actually 3 times or almost 4, 600 times 4 is 2,400 meters. They're just under that at Leleshwa, and that's really high altitude for us, right? So for Sakonde to be at 600 meters and to be considered high altitude is quite telling how, of course, we vary in the different areas. But of course, sea level is Cape Town, 0. I even checked what's the highest point of the coastal region. It was around 600 as well. So it's interesting how this, when we were showing the profiles of the mountains and the like, what that means. Dodoma in Tanzania, which is also the government-owned winery, and I think Distel had shares at as well, is also at around 1,900 meters above sea level. So interesting to see the comparisons and the like. I haven't heard of any vineyards in Uganda yet. Maybe those are coming soon and staff will discover. Thank you so much. You've heard about Sakonde. And then the other thing is that they are organic. Did you hear that as well? Organic vineyards. So that's also very important to note about everything. Awesome.
Yeah, I might add, but I might just add, it was quite a process for us to decide to become organic. There's not many wineries in South Africa that's already doing that. And where we're situated, in the Fynbos, in the Jonkershoek Valley, which is a World Heritage Site, UNESCO World Heritage Site, it's always been Jose's ideal to also become organic, and it being quite a big process to do it. He and our winemaker Rutger van Wyk, I might add, he's a protege of the Cape Winemakers Guild, and he won the best young winemaker in South Africa by Diners Club in 2016. So we're quite proud of him. They decided they're going to take on the task to convert Sakonde to being organic. And the journey started a number of years ago. Usually you only get certified after 3 years, or it's a 3-year process. So we should be certified organic. I think it's around now in the next month or so. And then so wines that we produce from now on would be certified organic. So it was quite a process. As I said, many mornings, quite early, you've got to get up and make sure that the vineyards are fine, that they spray the correct substances. There's lots of rules and regulations, of course, when it comes to being organic. But so far so good. Rutger mentioned the other day as well, is that you can really see the vineyards are alive, that the natural fauna and flora is coming back, that those little insects that you haven't seen because they've been killed by pesticides, they're back, and they've got natural predators that eat them. So we're quite happy about the process, and we want to encourage other wineries to do the same.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Lillian, the Oud Nectar is waiting for you. I know you're a big fan of that wine. That's your shout out. Last but not least, in this segment, we have Dimitri. Dimitri represents Douglas Green Borschendal, DGB. He's actually based out of Dubai, but for a while, we're lucky to have him in Nairobi. He's been a big supporter of even the spectacular South Africa campaign we had last year, as well as this process. And DGB is in all 3 East African countries, including, so there's Tanzania, and where Mohand Olsebe is their representative. I'm not sure whether we have anybody from there. There's ZMMI based in Zanzibar, and there's VLC in Uganda, and in Kenya they're represented by Viva Global, which also runs Rwanda Duty Free. So they quite have that footprint covered. I don't know why he's in Dubai though, because Kenya is a place to be. Dimitri, you will answer that and many more questions as you give us your presentation. Thank you. Over to you.
Thanks, Wanjiru Matomi, for putting this together. Yeah, I left the cold of Kenya to find the heat of Dubai. We had a lovely 42-degree temperature today. So, very pleasant out here. Just a quick one there. DGB is Douglas Green Bellingham, not Douglas Green Boschendal. Boschendal is just one of our brands as well. Really amazing to be in such illustrious company and have such amazing winemakers on the show and such knowledgeable people. I mean, some of these chaps I haven't seen since my very early days with DGB when I was based in Johannesburg. So really nice to see them. Nice to see some familiar faces from Kenya. Hopefully I'll be out there in the next couple of months again and we can all catch up for a glass of wine. So yeah, Cabernet, wow, what a grape, right? It's the king of red grapes. I mean, you guys have really touched on it all. Just some really interesting stats I thought you might like to know from a South African point of view. Despite all the dramas we've had with COVID and shipping and all the logistics behind it, Cabernet has grown 14% in Africa by volume in the last 12 months versus the previous 12 months. So that's a really, really exciting statistics. I can't remember who mentioned it earlier. It might have been Wanjiru, who said that, you know, there are more people moving up to this really fantastic varietal, and you can see that in the volume that's shipping around, which is really great. It's also the largest shipped varietal wine from red varietal from South Africa. So some really cool little bits of info there, something to get your teeth stuck into. And also, it's so differently expressive in what you get out of it. Different price points, different styles, different qualities. I mean, we've really had the cream of the crop come before me here. It's absolutely amazing to see what wines you've got there. It's so exciting to see for Africa, or East Africa in particular. So yeah, unfortunately, Ryan Patek, our winemaker, wasn't able to join us today. So you're stuck with me, I'm afraid. But I do have a little...
Sorry, Dimitri, can I just stop for a moment? There seems like your sound is low to some. I can hear you clearly though.
Okay.
Maybe you can be louder or adjust your audio settings. Sorry about that.
No problem. Let me just try and talk up a bit then. Okay, so I said Ryan, our winemaker, wasn't able to join us, unfortunately. He did send me a little video just to run you through the wine. It's not a long one, so it won't bore you guys. It's a quick minute 30, touches on the wine. He touches on Franschhoek cellars. So let me just see if my IT skills are up to par, and I can share this little video with you. Okay, can everyone see that?
Cellar in the Western Cape in South Africa. The Franschhoek Valley is renowned for making outstanding wines due to the fact that we are surrounded by the Drakensberg Mountains, and in the evenings we have a cool southeast that comes down the valley over the mountains and cools down under it, causing us to have a higher natural acidity and giving us lovely fruit-forward wines. The Franschhoek Village Walk range is named after specific landmarks that helped shape the Franschhoek town back in the days of the French Huguenot inhabitants. The Franschhoek Cellar Churchyard Cab is named after the final resting place for the French Huguenots. Cab is something that we really pay attention to in the vineyards, whereby we open the leaves to really get exposure to the berries to make sure that at the end of the day we can get lovely dark fruit, pencil shaving, cigar box flavors on the nose, and then also on the palate we have a really good structure, tight texture, chalky tannins, and the same flavors that come through. This one can definitely be paired with lovely lamb stews or curries, and also wine that we enjoy with friends and family sitting by the fireplace during a chilly winter evening. Cheers to drinking great South African cab from our valley, where the secret ingredient is our valley. The wines are also vegan and vegetarian friendly.
Right, so that's our rockstar winemaker from Franschhoek Cellars, Ryan Patek. Very cool little tidbit he threw in at the end there is that we are vegan and vegetarian friendly wines for the Franschhoek range. So that actually runs through the whole DGB portfolio. So really nice there. Also, Franschhoek is very big on recycling. I know it's, you know, carbon footprint and there's just so much waste that goes on in the world that we're really big. At the facility itself, every ounce of water that's used is recycled back in. We've got a natural dam there that helps support the wildlife and the fauna and flora. So really, really super facility. So yeah, that's a little bit on the wine. Obviously, there's landmarks we play with in Franschhoek. It's just such a gorgeous wine and at such a great price point. I think in Kenya it's approximately 1,600 shillings. 1,600 bob. Sorry, I've been gone too long. And really good. I would say it's really good value for money wine by the glass as well. I know it hits a price point. It really fits in nicely. We've designed it on purpose to have a screw cap instead of a cork. That definitely doesn't affect any quality. And I think people are starting to understand that slowly now. I know there was a misconception where everyone thought if it had a screw cap, then it was not very good wine. But I think that misconception is slowly moving away now. Yeah, so all in all, the 2019, I think I've got a 2019 vintage. I think Irene said she's got the 2019. Wanjiru, have you got the 2018 you said?
Yes, 2018, yes.
All right, super. So another thing that's very important for us is consistency with these wines. And just as a point of scoring, decanter for both vintages, the 2018, which you've got, won a 92 award, and the 2019, which Irene and myself have got a 91. So the consistency is always there, which is really what you're looking for, especially in a restaurant wine. You know, you want your guests to come in and time after time, they know what they like. They know they're going to get the same consistency level. This is also 100% Cabernet. Majority of the grapes do come out of the Franschhoek Valley. There are a little bit that come out of Paarl as well, if I'm not mistaken. So a really, really unique wine. There's just some fabulous flavors that come out of there. I know Brian mentioned dark fruits and pencil shavings. I also get a hell of a lot of violet on it, which I think is lovely. It's a very good youthful expression of a Cabernet. Really good expression of what Cabernet will present when there's minimal winemaking intervention. You know, the winemakers don't go in there and beat the poor grapes to death to make wine. They let them run their course. So that's the Franschhoek Cellars Cabernet from DGB and Viva and and VCR.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dimitri. And I will never forget, it's Bellingham.Boschendal. I think I've made that mistake severally. Thank you for that correction. I know this name is definitely...
My mom still calls it breweries. Don't worry. You're fine.
Okay. You're fine. Okay. Thank you very much. You and your mom, my mom and, yeah, you and my mom, myself and your mom are together. This is the result of tasting too much wine. Just, you mentioned two very important points that I want to touch on. The vegan and vegetarian wine. How can wine be vegan or vegetarian? Who wants to know? Okay, I do. Yeah. So how does wine qualify to be called vegan or vegetarian? Please tell us more about that.
So essentially, in a very small box, just to go as an overview, I mean, ultimately, you're using a grape, which starts off as a vegetarian-friendly product. When you start adding certain other components into that, in the winemaking process itself, that's where potentially it loses its class as vegan or vegetarian based on what you're putting in there. Processes, older processes, some guys still do it, like fining. That's an egg-based product that they use. We found a vegetarian or vegan-friendly alternative to do that. So all the different aspects and components that go into making the wine from grape to bottle are now within our business vegan and vegetarian-friendly.
So there you have it. Yes, it starts as fruit, but then there are components within the process that can make it non-vegetarian or non-vegan, like the egg component, fish eggs that's used for fining and the like. So that is why that is there. I didn't know Franschhoek Cellar Wars. Now I do. Actually, this word is a tongue twister for people from where I come from because there's too many C's and H's together. But of course, that's a French corner. and then there's the name, the church yard. Do you want to say something? Because each of the wines in the cellar range, the F cellar range, I'm trying to avoid saying that word, have like a name, the church shed and the like. And I think the winemaker alluded to it when he said something as a final resting place of the French Huguenots. I don't want to think about a cemetery, but then tell us more about that.
So essentially the Franschhoek cellar range is named after key landstones or landmarks within Franschhoek that essentially established the town. The churchyard is the yard outside the church, where, as you touched on, is the final resting place of the Huguenots, the French Huguenots who founded the Franschhoek Valley. Because in English, Franschhoek it means French corner. So that's where that came from. Likewise, we've got, if you looked at our Sauvignon Blanc, that's called the Statue de Femme, which is the main statue in the middle of the town. It's a female, feminine statue that's in the center of Franschhoek. So there's all these nice landmarks to talk about. You know, oh, I've seen that landmark, I drank the wine. Very cool. Yeah.
Exactly. Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much for that.
On the bottle, sorry, just while we're on that French cork.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll notice there's two little gold medallions at the base of the bottle. Yeah. So the one on the right is the crest of the French Huguenots. Okay. The one on the left is, it'll say there, the corner of the elephants. And that's actually because the far region was originally known as Olifantshoek, or the elephant corner.
Okay.
And the elephants used to come up and over the mountain pass and come into Franschhoek many generations ago, before we intervened, unfortunately, as humans. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So here we are learning that the winelands are not only important for the vineyard. We've seen elephants, we've seen springbok, antelopes, horses. What else did we encounter today? There's been all sorts of animals, Nguni cows, you know, Atfikalaken and all the like. So it's like a nature reserve, one with nature and all the particular animals there. Thank you so much for that. Now there's something else I found out about Cabernet Sauvignon relating to date. So for example, the oldest wine we tasted today, or was showcased today, was a 2014 vintage. So who can tell me in the chat how old that wine is today? The 2014 vintage is how old today? Today is August the 20th. So how old is that wine? A lot of the others have been 2017, 2018, 2019, but we had a 2014. Any answers for me? The vintage date is the date the grapes were harvested. So how old would it be now? Is there anybody with an answer for me? Or has everybody left? I have some people in the audience here in the room with me, but I'm not giving them the chance to answer unless they answer on chat in the Zoom. 2014 vintage going once? Twice? Come on, nobody. Nixon, where are you today? Aha, so 7 years. Yes, we harvest in January in South Africa. So I would say those 7.5, right? So that's the vintage date, which is the harvest date. When I was doing the research for the different wines, I was talking that I saw something like bottling date and release date. There was the bottling date and release date. Now, clearly winemaking is a process. The winemaker has to follow a certain recipe. You had both Hagen, Francois, and Andre speak about inoculation, maceration, this and that. Then there was maturation for X amount of months before there was the bottling. So the bottling date may be X number of months after maturation. So say, for example, if I harvested in 2014 and my wine was matured for 16 months, I was basically bottling at the end of December 2015. And then I keep my bottle in the cellar before I release it into the market. So you were hearing about them saying release date, or that's in the market now. Yeah, so they can actually keep it in their cellar for some time before they actually release it into the market. So if someone is claiming to be selling me, for example, a 2016 Fier-Helene Reserve Cabernet Sauvignon, right now, I might question it because I understand their process. The maturation has to be for X amount of months, and then there's the maturation in their cellar before they release it. So those are very important things I also wanted to point out that I was learning as I was researching on the difference. So very key. So the Fier-Helene then is about 7.5 years, thereabouts. So imagine that you drank that, and he's saying you can keep it for another 15 years before you drink it. So you'll be maturing it in your home or in your cellar. Very, very key. The time has passed. I want to indulge just for